That is grassroots stupid if I've ever seen it. So we were able to marry our corporate overlords with our 12-year-old gamer kid minds, and we just did it.
Hello, Theo here. Esports and Grassroots. Why is there a beef? They don't need to be two separate things. Also, don't mind me, I slept on my pillow wrong, so if I'm doing the Batman full body turns, yeah, that's what's going on today. One of the first video ideas I had for this channel was actually this Grassroots versus Esports idea. I was watching the EVO Awards last night, and it sort of rekindled that thought in the back of my brain. Because as I was watching it, like, here's your quick review of the EVO Awards. It was cheesy, but very fun. It was very much in the style of an award show, and I really enjoyed, like, the vibes. Yeah, it was corporate-y. Yeah, it was a little bit stupid, but also we had, like, Yipes versus Justin, and we got to watch Arslan Ash play against Punk and City of the Wolves, and, like, there was still a little bit of that, like, grassrootsiness in there. And it really re-inspired the concept of this video, where I am going to put out a thesis statement here. I don't think that esports and grassroots are mutually exclusive. I think that they can work together and be everything we want. I think we can get our cake and eat it too. We already have some good examples of this. Obviously, I think the EVO Awards was a pretty good example of it. It was a little bit leaning too much esports for me. However, the concept was there. I could see it. I could feel it. It was very cool. But I think Frosty Faustings actually exemplifies this a lot too, where they have the world tours happening, but there's also a lot of that fun, goofy arcade style culture that's happening on the floor and in the different ballrooms and in their arcade area. Now, to define what I'm thinking of when I say esports, just so that we're all on the same page at least, I'm thinking of like the glitz, the glamour, the money, the corporatization, the cleaning, the clean spotting of the FGC. When I say esports, I'm talking about that section of our community right now. And there's nothing wrong with that. It is a thing that we will need to do if we want to have more money in our community. However, on the other end, you have grassroots. Grassroots I would define as our culture in its epitome. The competitiveness, the trash talk, the goofiness, the weird stuff. That's just us at home doing our thing, if home's like the arcade or our locals. The thing is, unlike other esports, we've already linked these two things. They're already, like, connected. You see it at most of our majors, where there's pop-offs and people talking in each other's faces, and while it's much less than it used to be, don't get me wrong, we are more esports than we are grassroots at this point, it's still there. And the way that we're connected with the corporate entities and things like that, we're generally not chained to them. It seems to me, at least, that most of our biggest content creators, most of our tournament organizers are their own people and entities still, and are able to function in that way. That's why we get big arcades. That's why we get 24-hour venues. Like, that doesn't make them more money. That loses them money, but we have those things. This takes me back to the EVO Awards. I saw that we had like a red carpet and that like Kita Gaming was there, and Vitrix ended up winning a prize, and like all these other things, and it felt very corporate-y. It felt like a red carpet award show for a good chunk of the show. I'm not against that. I think that that's fun content, but it also makes me sad sometimes when I see our community fully going in that direction. But then there are things like the two tournaments that happened, and that was really fun. I mean, even the Capcom vs. Marvel 2 tournament, where they had the little drama between Yipes and Sanford Kelly. I don't know how his name left my mind like that. Even that little drama felt reminiscent of days of old. Again, it's not the same, but we're creating something new. And I think that that's the point I'm trying to make, is that esports and grassroots can work together. And I think that we're already doing that, and we're creating something that's different from every other esport in the world. I think that's why so many people love watching like Street Fighter, and why Sage Am Slam won so many awards, because I think that there's a lot more casual people enjoying that there's like this production and money and like a standard of etiquette but also there's still that rivalry and trash talk and East Coast versus West Coast and Japan versus America, or whatever other country rivalry. Like, that is a thing that's still very deep within our culture. I realize this section, I left my mic over there, so hopefully it sounds okay. With this all said, I think the point of this video is that I really am tired of seeing people talk one way or the other about esportness and us being more esports, because this is what needs to happen if we want our best people, brightest people to succeed, whether that's the professional players, whether that's the YouTubers, streamers, whoever it is that you want to succeed, that you want to grow, if it's you who are trying to make content or perform in tournament. We need this esportsification to happen, but also we want to grasp onto our grassroots, because so far we've been able to do that. We can have our cake and eat it too. To go back to Frosty Faustings as an example, we had like a bunch of crew battles and a bunch of like crazy stuff happen on Thursday, and it was really fun. And on Sunday we had our 2v2s, like a non-serious but kind of serious, sweaty, fun tournament where it was like Tekken, Street Fighter, a couple other games where it was just like 2v2 teams playing against one another. But then we had our 2 days of kind of esportsiness where it was like commentators sitting down, kind of looking nice, talking to the camera about matches that were happening with Guilty Gear and Tekken and Street Fighter, and like it was sort of esportsy, but literally across the way in the other ballrooms we were playing Soul Calibur 2 modded on PlayStation. It was a bunch of just sweaty nerds screaming at each other playing this old game. And so like, even in places like Combo Breaker and things like that, like there is this marriage, there's this thing happening between being able to have money and production, but also have the hood stupid that is grassroots. Like we can have both, and I really want people to start thinking about that, because we can push and pull and give and take. Like, that's an option. I think that Chipotle is actually an amazing example of that, because yeah, that is a corporate sponsor. They're just corporate as fuck, but we've made it our own. That Sajam commercial with all the commentary people talking about guac, that is grassroots stupid if I've ever seen it. So we were able to marry our corporate overlords with our 12-year-old gamer kid minds, and we just did it. And that's sort of what I'm talking about, is that like when we aren't fighting against change and growth, but we're trying to incorporate it into our culture, it makes things so much better. We can create something even better, and we can introduce money into the community, and we can do all these other things while still being us. I'm telling you right now, as far as I've seen, there's no other esport like that. Things like Hearthstone and League of Legends and all that stuff, they're run by the companies that make the games, and so they get to curate exactly what it looks like and sounds like and what people are doing. We aren't like that. We are individual entities playing a game, and the publishers come to us. They come to our tournaments and they go, hey, can we set up here? Like, we have the power here, and because of that, we're able to create this new and wonderful thing. All this is to say, I liked the Esports Awards. A little goofy, but I enjoyed it. And I like what it represents. I like what we're doing and how we're moving and where we're going as a community. And I invite people who are resisting the esports change to really look at it again, because I think that it's something that can turn out to be something great if we all work together to make that happen. And as a bit of a side note, one of the things I think we need to do to make sure that that happens is actually support our locals, because the grassroots part of grassroots really starts there. If we don't have a lot of locals floating around, we will slowly just deteriorate to corporatization. It will happen. It's the local communities and the TOs that are in those communities that really create these grassroots tournaments that have the esports upscale, if you will. It's thanks to our players being at home, being passionate, that we're able to create that grassroots vibe at a major esports event. Without the locals, we will not be able to maintain our heritage? Our grassroots heritage? I think that would be the word I would use. We won't be able to maintain that without the locals. Definitely nothing against online tournaments, nothing against all of that, because those are a different breed altogether. I think that that is an extension of like the esportsification and the grassroots combining together again in a different area. But that's another mixture. It's another dilution. The locals, like the locals that you physically go to and you hang out with, that's true like grassroots locked in, like that's grassroots, and we need that, and we need the super corporate mega everything's clean and pretty. We need both distilled so that we can mix them together in order to make this like perfect concoction that we're starting to create ourselves. So maintaining that grassroots stuff is our responsibility. It's your responsibility. We need to do that. It's like Majin Obama was saying at the Esports Awards. We're the ones that carry the games.
What can we do to create the environment? Create it ourselves. The environment that reminds us why we started playing these games in the first place. And it's, these kinds of events, the truth is, they're not always going to be there. And from a player perspective, I can definitely come around to the point, like, we don't always take advantage and we don't always acknowledge those events the way we should when we have them. But to me, too, if I can go mask off for a second, the publishers are in the house. These events carry y'all's games, bro. So while players, sometimes we don't really acknowledge and we don't really, appreciate those things that we have while we have them. I would like the publishers to be reminded as well. You got to look at who's putting your games on.
And that's why at the end of every video, I always say, get out there and support your locals. Because we need our locals to be truly supported. I still feel like that's too much of a tagline that people say and don't mean. It still feels, when I'm watching events like the EVO Awards, it still feels like people say support your locals, but it's really just like a thoughts and prayers. It's not really like, it doesn't feel like people mean it. And I'm letting you know right now that that's something that we need if we don't want it to get to esports. The scales will tip that direction as more money is involved. So, with that said, get out there and support your locals, or come support mine. You'll just let me fanboy here for a second. That Majin Obama speech was tough. Majin Obama's always been one of my favorite YouTubers. Like, he's definitely in my top 3 for sure. But bro, if you ever happen to see little old me doing a video, man, that was so goated. I appreciate you. I appreciate you so much. Also, everyone's kind of like fit. Everybody's like outfits at the esports, or I keep on saying esports awards, at the EVE Awards was tough. It has inspired me. I'm gonna go get more harem pants. I'm gonna like up my game because I want to look good for the community too. Like, people were looking good. I don't know. I really enjoyed the EVE Awards, guys.